Welcome to Parenting Different, a place where real adoption stories come to life. My name is Anna Bernacki, and this is the Parenting Different podcast. Welcome to the Parenting Different podcast. My name is Anna Bernacki, and today we have Raquel, McCloud, and Leah Outten here with us. I am so excited to have you guys joining us to talk about your stories. Raquel, can you start by introducing yourself?
For sure. So I guess, better known as McCloud Life on Instagram. My name's Raquel, and I've built this community around sharing my lived experience as a young girl that was raised in kinship care until I emancipated myself at 17. I became a birth mom at 14, well, 15 when I placed my daughter for adoption, and a kinship caregiver at 24 before finalizing the adoption of my biological half sister. And so my life experiences have just really been saturated in the adoption, foster, and kinship care community. And I'm doing what I feel called to do.
Awesome, thank you. And Leah, tell us a little bit about your story.
So our stories are a little bit different, but we both were, I'm sorry if you can hear that. Um, our stories are a little bit different, but we both were pregnant during our teenage years. So I was pregnant at 16, um, and really wrestled with my decision for most of my pregnancy, really thinking that I could not do closed adoption, and that's all I knew because of the family members that were adopted in my family were all closed adoption. And so um, after wrestling with my decision and um, just wanting to make an informed decision within that, and talking to other teen moms and other birth moms and adoptive parents online, that's where I learned that open adoption with visits and just really having a relationship, not just a checklist of what open adoption or semi-open could look like, just really extending our family all around. And so for the last 21 years, I've had this really incredible relationship with my birth daughter and her family. And so all those experiences of just really feeling loved and supported well by my support system, along with her, her family, has really led to where I am today of helping other families know how to do that and how to love birth parents well, how to have an open adoption, whatever communication that might look like.
Raquel, you, through your healing journey, have created quite an online presence and you share a lot of healing stuff as well. Talk to me about what really drew you. I know specifically play. Anybody who knows you as a person knows you are fun. You are the life of the party. If it's not a party, you're still going to have fun and it's going to become a party if you're there.
I bring the party.
You are the party. So talk to me about how that came to be, because from my understanding, I actually don't know your full story of how you kind of came into this whole idea of play and the healing aspect of play, but I know that wasn't always your story. So talk to me a little bit about that and how play has helped in your healing.
So I'm shocked we've not had this conversation because you played a big part in it. So apparently you don't know that yet.
No, I do not.
This is my personality. And with anything else, like when something is just who you are, you don't always realize how difficult that is for other people. And so throughout my entire life, even throughout living through abuse and hardship and things of that nature, like this was my coping tool. I was funny, I was silly, I was lighthearted, and one of the ways that I think that I really survived a lot of horrible circumstances was looking for small joys, because that I couldn't get from you. And I don't think it's realistic for anyone, no matter your circumstances, to try to get from like one big fun exciting thing to the next big fun exciting thing, because that's just not how life works. It's not realistic.
Right.
We have to be willing to find the joy in the smaller moments. And so, like, one of the examples that I love to give to people is I can remember being in kind of a tough space and going for walks every day. And this one field that I always walk past, there was white daisies growing in it, just wild white
Mm.
daisies. Daisies are my favorite flower. And there was just little pockets of them in this field, and it was beautiful. So it's in the mountains. We're in the smoke, or not right now, but then we were in the Smoky Mountains. So you have like this mountain backdrop, this big open field that was really like property behind a factory. It wasn't like we were just out in this pristine environment. So you have this big ugly factory, this beautiful open field, mountains behind it, wild daisies growing in it. And then I see this pop of red, and it's a ladybug crawling up the stem of this beautiful daisy. And I'm on the middle of my walk with my dog, and I just stop because why? Why not? I didn't have an appointment to get to. I didn't have something to rush to. I just stopped and I sat down on the sidewalk beside this road and factory with a field in front of me and daisies and a ladybug. And it was beautiful, and it brought me joy in that moment. Like, it wasn't big and miraculous, and it wasn't this expensive experience. Like, it was just an everyday life moment that I decided I was going to take a moment to enjoy. And so I live my life that way, and I always have, because it's those moments that I feel like took me from surviving to thriving.
Mhm.
Because I think when we live in survival mode, which I've had to do for a good majority of my life, it can be really easy to just survive. And that's
Mhm.
that the definition of surviving is to be alive. There's a lot of us walking around surviving and not fully living in these moments that we'll never get back. And it doesn't matter what bad things are happening, we're still able to hold that balance of grief and gratitude in those moments. And so, that just being a way that I had lived my life, the reason that I picked it apart and realized that that was different than what other people was doing is because through sharing online, I had a lot of questions all across the board from different situations of how do you do it? Like, based on what you've went through, how are you still okay? How are you still happy? How do you still find joy? I think I froze.
Oh no.
What was the question?
I
Okay.
froze.
Okay, there we go.
I'm
Okay, you're
back.
back. You're
Okay,
back.
Where did I cut off?
your
You
question.
had a lot
I
of
was getting a lot of
questions.
questions.
Okay. So I was getting a lot of questions from the online community, specifically Instagram, and people just saying, with based on what I had shared, like, you've endured a lot. Like, how are you happy? How are you joyful? How are you okay? I would get that question, like, how are you normal? How are you okay? And I had to sit and think about it and kind of just going through like how I live my life, like how am I okay? How am I? And one of the main components I discovered is just my ability to hold grief and gratitude simultaneously. Look for those moments of joy, create moments of joy, and not just wait for life to be perfect, because I realized that even under the best circumstances, life is never perfect. Things can always go awry. We can always find reasons to be sad and bitter and angry, and the more important question is, how do we find reasons to be happy and lighthearted and joyful? And so, in discovering that, I just got a wild hair and thought, I'm gonna host a retreat for this community, and we're gonna talk about this exactly, because there's tons of conferences and retreats that educate on adoption, foster, kinship care. There's tons that do that and do the science and here's how to be a better parent, here's how to, navigate your story, XYZ. But I didn't know any that were talking about the bigger story behind it. It's not just this component of, I'm a birth mom, I was a child of kinship care, I'm a kinship adoptive mom. It's, I'm these things and I'm still a whole human that wants to thrive in life. So how do I show others how to do that? And so, um, there was, I feel like, especially within these trauma communities, there was a uh, a distaste for the word resilience. A lot of people were really angry about the word resilience, and I understand the basis of that. It was, these things shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have to be resilient. And I get that. It shouldn't have, but it did, and we can't change it. So what's the alternative to resilience? And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how all this started, realizing that this joy that I chase and make space for is one of the main ways that we build resilience, and then building on that and creating this retreat to encompass that. So the retreat, and this is where you come in, Anna, that very first retreat, you were there. And the
Mm-hmm.
purpose of that retreat was to help people thrive and build resilience. What I did not realize was that my playful personality was such a foreign concept to most adults. And that's what you brought up to me time and time again. Like, you're just playful. This is fun. I don't know how to have fun. I don't know how to play. I don't like, how are you doing this? Like, why? Like, this is, just all the, and you weren't the only one, but you were the first one, and you were the most thorough in your words to articulate like this playfulness. There's something about this, and I want
Yeah.
this, and how do I build this into my life? And that is what that's when the light bulb went off, and I was like, not only like, yes, I can give you this checklist on how to build resilience, but let me show you that this isn't
Mm-hmm.
for show. This is who I am. This is part of my daily life, and I am genuinely convinced that it is why I'm sane and able to experience joy and happiness, and I'm able to thrive, not just survive, because these are things that I've built into my life on purpose.
Yeah, I think that was such a profound weekend for me. And I walked in, like I'll never forget walking in and you had paints out on the table so that everybody could sit there and paint and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a participation one." Like I don't paint. I don't want to. I'm not good at this. Like right away I was like, "Oh, this is going to be I'm going to be forced outside of my comfort zone." And it's awkward, right? You don't know these. Like I had met you once before. We didn't really know each other. So it was I had come with a friend and of course she jumps right in and starts painting. I'm like, "Come on." Like now I'm peer pressured into this. But I think part of it is I put a lot of expectations on myself. And I think a lot of that is being an adoptee. You feel like you have to conform. And I think not just adoptee, but anyone who's endured trauma, right? You have in order to be accepted and to be feel like you belong, you have to conform and you become a chameleon. And I was kind of in my phase of I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to just go with the flow. And, but also, if I do, I have to do it well. And I don't like to paint. I'm not an artist. And so now I'm going to sit here with people I don't know. And we're about to see how Anna can paint some stick figures. Like, this is so awkward. And it just didn't sound fun at all. But what happened is we sat there and one after another, people arrived and joined the table and it became such a joyful conversation. And then there's you just goofing off and making it so fun. And I thoroughly enjoyed painting. Like, who is she? Because it wasn't serious and it wasn't about like, well, what can you do and how talented are you and show me what you're doing here. Like it just was so a way instead of sitting there looking at each other like, so what's your name? It was just a very lighthearted way to kind of break that ice. And it was so perfect. So that set the tone for the weekend. And I let my guard down. I was like, okay. And then you really did show us how throughout the weekend. And I think it was the first session that evening. You talked about finding moments of joy. And you talked about starting like a thing on your notes app, like just start a list. and just
Yeah.
write down and every day add something to it. And I did it. I started it right then. I was like, what can it hurt? And I still use that all the time. Like,
I
still to this
love
day,
that.
I still use that. And it's true, when I'm having a hard day, I go and I pull that. And it's like, okay, I can find something, whether it's, you know what, today the sun is shining, or I didn't have a headache today. Like, it can be as simple as that. Even on the hardest of hard days, we can find one thing that brought us joy. And that just really reframed my mindset of everything, too. And then there was the whole, like, you literally taught us how to play. And I think that that is something my husband, prior to that, literally for years, he would call me the fun police. That
Oh,
was my name, was the fun police. And it bothered me. I didn't like that.
yeah.
But I didn't know how to play, and I found danger in everything. Like, everything was dangerous, everything was too much. And so I would find a reason why not to. And so I became the fun police. And then my kids started calling me the fun police. And I was like, well, at least you'll be safe. And that was always my comeback. It's like, well, it's safe. We got to be safe. But I really was living my own life, and I was living my own life in such a box of like, okay, this is where I have to be, because that's where I felt most comfortable and safe
Mhm.
for myself. It wasn't about physical safety. It was about that emotional safety for myself. And then I ended up putting that on my kids and transferring that burden to them, and being able to see how to bring joy into every single aspect of life, and how to play and how to have fun, was just one of those things that I had never been shown before. And I've heard it, right? I've heard about play therapy. I've heard the benefits of it. I'm like, okay, great. Fantastic. Now what? What do you
Yeah.
want me to do now? And just having a group of women, I mean, I don't think I've ever laughed that hard as I have several times throughout that weekend. But it was just so, I probably haven't laughed that hard since, to be honest, but it
Thanks.
was so profound in showing me how I can play, and truly I came back a different person. Like, I have let this guard down, and there's such a freedom in finding joy and looking for the joy, and looking, rather than what's going to keep me safe, what's going, who cares? Like, it, just being vulnerable is uncomfortable, but there's so much joy in it. And that has truly changed how I parent, how I interact with my husband. I haven't been called the fun police in a really long time. So I'd say we have some progress here.
That's incredible.
So I'm just like, I am so, the weekend that what you set out to do, you definitely accomplished. If none of the other women got anything out of it, which I think they absolutely did, but if none of them did, I'm forever changed. I have lost the title of fun police, and so it truly, and there's just such a joy and a freedom that comes with it. And I never would have thought, I thought healing, and yes, there is a certain aspect of healing is processing through the grief and acknowledging it and working through that. That is a huge component of healing, but that's not only it. And there is finding that joy and how to move on and how to create a beautiful life through the grief. And I think that is something that is often lost. And that was something that was so profoundly different with your retreat.
Healing should not only feel heavy. Healing
Yeah.
can be heavy, but it should not only feel heavy. And I think that we've lost sight of that in this very attuned, aware landscape that we've created, this new era of accountability and acknowledging triggers and working through this and working through that. I think we've let go of, sometimes it is okay to have healthy distractions. It is
Yeah.
okay to work through things with joy. I think So if this isn't something that you do regularly, I have a challenge for you and anyone listening, Leah, you too.
Okay.
Um, just a simple way to add some childlike whimsy and wonder and joy. The next time you have a big rainstorm, go get a few dry towels and throw them by the back door. Take your kids and run outside, because there's nothing like running in the rain,
Yeah.
playing in the rain, jumping in a puddle, just being free in that. Not, oh no, we're going to get wet. Go get wet. Go get dirty. You can dry off. You can clean up. And it's just a free, simple way that, like, my kids are teenagers now, and still occasionally it'll come a rain says, I don't do it when it's lightning. I ain't crazy.
Yeah.
But like a good rainstorm comes through and they're like, Mom, you want to go run in the rain? Yes, I do. It's nice, it's freeing, and it's
Yeah.
childlike. Before we cared about, before like we were taught to care about staying dry and clean and prim and proper. Why? We're only here
Right.
for a short time. Like, build those moments of joy in.
Yes. You can always clean up later.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is very true. And Leah, you went to her Raquel's second retreat. So tell me about your experience at her second retreat, because that one was just for birth moms. So I guess I didn't really clarify. The one that I went to was for anyone connected to adoption, and then yours was just for birth moms. So talk to me
Yes.
about
Yeah. So first of all, I relate a lot to you, Anna, where I am very self-policing, fun and joy. Like I might look for it mentally, but the external expression of being silly and goofy does not come naturally to me. So I totally understand just how, I don't know, it's just a box we put ourselves in. So I'm still working on all these things myself. But to be, in a room with other birth moms, um, is something I've done for the 21 years of my journey. So that wasn't a new concept, but the approach was. And for it to be such a small, intimate group, as you said, with so much laughter that, like, I think I may have gained an ab or something in there. It was so much laughter. And then even if I didn't feel comfortable yet to participate, I had joy from watching their joy. And so like they did karaoke and I was the only one who didn't participate because I just did not. I have not reached that level of like I can let go completely yet. So I'm still a work in progress too. Um, but it was just incredible to be surrounded by women with lots of different experiences and ages and pains and joys and all sorts of things that just could exist together and lift each other up and cry with one another and laugh with one another. It was such a bonding experience that I hadn't had anything quite like that in my other retreats I've gone to. Maybe they were bigger environments or it just wasn't as cozy and comfortable because we're in a house. And so we're, doing life together in a really comfortable, you know, just home-like setting rather than like a conference room.
that.
Um, and it was a smaller group, so it felt easier to connect. Instead of painting, we did junk journaling, which was a huge hit
Mm.
because it really helped eliminate some of those fears of like, oh, I can't paint. It was like, can you glue something on a paper? And like, what can you do with that? So, um, it was in the topics, it was the, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of bonding. It's a lot of, good food and beautiful atmosphere, but it also the topics to help have practical tips to take home with you. Um, I think that is so important to have some of those heavy moments and those things you can, write in your notebook and take back and put into practice as you did, but also just surrounding it with fun. It was truly unique. And we also had another birth mom who had been to many retreats too, and she was like, "There's nothing like this. It's truly the approach is so different." And so I cannot wait to do it again.
I don't have as much experience with retreats and stuff. So it's interesting for you who have been to a lot of them to hear that you had the same experience. Like it was profoundly different. So then the two of you hit it off and you guys, which I mean, I'm sure you guys knew each other before, but something else came out of this. So tell me a little bit about that. Whose idea was it? I guess I don't even know this story yet. Whose idea was it to make this bigger?
This happened at 3 a.m. at my kitchen table one night.
In
Okay.
March of this year. Yeah.
In March
Before
of
the
this
So
retreat.
before
Yeah.
this. Okay. I was
Yeah.
thinking it was
So
after
we
the
had
retreat. This
known,
was before.
no, it kind of solidified after that, but we had met online a couple years ago and just connected as birth moms with children and with that are older, in our 20s, and having children we parent, we bonded over these like common pieces of our story that we didn't have really with anyone else as as well. And we just bond. We have a lot in common, even though our personalities are very different. We have a lot in common, and we just get one another. So we clicked over the internet. We met at a few conferences, and those having that time face to face, building an in person relationship just solidified that we work really well together and balance each other with our gifts and our talents and perspectives. And so that was kind of starting to come in March of this year before the birth mom retreat as we were planning for the birth mom retreat. And, I think Raquel she was, working on her second retreat, and it was becoming obvious that a nonprofit was needed to help easier to fundraise for these really high quality events that she's putting on. And I have nonprofit experience. And again, we just worked well together. And, sometimes it's easier to do things when you have a team versus trying to do it all on your
Yeah.
own. And so we kind of just felt led to link arms and build something together.
That's
Take it away.
amazing.
What are we building, Raquel?
um, we just knew that we wanted to build a nonprofit to fund all these big goals and dreams that we know could help a lot of people. And then was it the second to last day of the retreat? So one of my big platforms has always been the and of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about grief and gratitude, hope and healing, that life is hard and beautiful. And it's that and that is so important because that's what gives us permission to hold space for both and to acknowledge both. And I believe I had talked about grief and gratitude, and it was really resonating with all the ladies at the retreat. And someone, not me, someone suggested we all get matching tattoos. As someone who collects tattoos and is heavily covered, it may appear that that was my idea, but it wasn't. It was someone else's idea. I just agreed that if it was an ampersand, because they were like bouncing around, like what would really like not like encompass or represent this retreat, and they were talking about the grief and gratitude, and I was like, just the and symbol, which is it's called an ampersand, just the ampersand sign. And a lot of them were like, what's an ampersand? And I'm like, it's the and symbol. And they're like, I would get that. And one by one, I would get that. I would get that. So we ended up like 14 deep at a tattoo shop in Gatlinburg,
I love it.
Tennessee. Everybody getting ampersand tattoos. And so after the retreat, when Leah and I were talking about the nonprofit, that because she was fired up afterwards, like we were excited before, then she experienced it and she's like, let's do it. And so we're just, I mean, you can't call something the and company, that just sounds lame. So we landed on the Ampersand Initiative, and the whole purpose is to show people that life can be hard and beautiful.
I truly do love it though, because I think it just sends the whole message right there. And because that is so much of what you've built your platform off of is and and that is so much of healing too. I think is not it's not all darkness, it's not all joy. It is the combination of both. And that is really acknowledging both is how you can move forward and heal. Like, yes, this was hard, and I can still live a good life. And I think that is so, so important. So what's next for Ampersand? What are you doing now?
We have a checklist. No,
Yeah, we do.
but we
I'm
do.
sure.
Um, well, right now we're in the middle of waiting on we hired a nonprofit lawyer because neither of us are like legal minded, and we wanted to make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's. And so our first hope would be to fundraise to cover the lawyer fees. Otherwise, we're going hard and investing in what we believe in. um, and then we've already announced the third retreat, and we have what, a month, a little like a day less than a month. Is today the second? Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
we have, let's see, 30 days, has September, April, June, and November. So we have 30 days um, to be able to fill the spots and fundraise and uh, yeah.
And this one is open to everybody touched by adoption this time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Adoption, foster, kinship care.
Hmm. But
Wow.
right now, it seems to be a lot of birth moms who are interested,
We
Really?
with
have,
some other ones.
yeah, we have 5 open scholarship requests, and I believe 4, if not all 5, are birth moms.
Oh, wow.
Some of them are like they want to be included in a space with everyone. Like some of the requests have said, like I would love to be able to learn from also adoptive moms, and like they want. Where some, like, I really enjoyed the last retreat where it was all birth moms and we all had that commonality, but there's also a lot of beauty and joy to be gleaned from the open to everyone spaces too. And so we want to balance that out in the future, not only focus on birth mom. Like we really want to cover all gambits. And so yeah, like Leah said, this one is open to everyone. It's taking place in October in Idaho. It's another one of the big differences I've seen too is just like the accommodations. Like a lot of retreats are held in more like camp like settings or
Conference centers.
conference
Yeah.
centers.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I'm really adamant about is creating a cozy space. Like if I was to invite you over to my big, ginormous, gigantic house that I don't own, it would be this, like we are, especially back in the day before we started traveling full time, we didn't have a big gigantic home, but we had a home and we would invite people to it and we would fill it full, and just the feeling of sitting around a kitchen table or a living room in those spaces and talking
Yeah.
is a heck of a lot different than sitting in chairs in a conference room or
Oh, yeah.
anything of that nature. And so the environment, all of it is so intentionally curated, and they are more pricey than a lot of other retreats, but they are incredibly intentional and high quality for a reason. And I think both of you guys experience how much
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
means.
I noticed, I mean, right away, every single thing was so intentional. And it really was like walking in to kind of like just a big hug. Like, you just walk in and everything was thought about. I just love how, like, even down to like the little gift bags, it wasn't just whatever can be thrown into it. It was very intentional and very thought through for each woman there. And I really appreciated the thought that went into it too. I think that made it stand out as well. So hopefully, if you are listening and you want to join and you want to be a part of this healing journey, or you want to sponsor one of the women who is hoping that someone will sponsor them and give towards the scholarship fund, where should they go?
All the links are on the ampersandinitiative.com, and that's probably
Okay,
the easiest little hub.
gotcha.
So if you go to that, www.theampersandinitiative.com, and you click on the download and donate page.
I wanted to add a note on about the like retreats in general, and part of the intentionality that is part of play is we choose beautiful places to explore and to
Mhm.
play outside,
Yeah.
because that's also a big part of not just sitting in a conference room with LED lights, but getting outside in sunshine, we took photos out on the creek, you played in the ocean, Anna, like getting outside and exploring is part of that healing process. And I think that's something that, again, is a different approach to any other retreat I've been to. And I think
Yeah.
that just helps. Being in nature naturally helps bring out the childlike wonder within us.
Yes, it's all a part of that healing and those moments of joy, right? Like finding that joy and those moments that if you were in a conference room, you'd never have. So, yeah,
There's
the
so much cool
location is
brain
huge.
science behind it. I won't geek out, but I could geek out. And you can look up like blue spaces and what blue spaces do for your mind. And that's any body of water like oceans, lakes. And so this upcoming one is on a gorgeous lake. Gorgeous.
Mm.
Mhm.
Gorgeous.
I
Gorgeous.
cannot wait.
Wait, it's just the intentionality, and it's a holistic approach, and I think that that's what
Hmm.
makes it different than a lot of other retreats and conferences as well. Like we're really touching on mind, body, soul, spirit. Like it's a holistic approach. It's and every detail is intentional in creating that healing, and it's just it feels, I don't have as much experience as Leah has, but talking to her was such a confidence boost of it felt like this is different, and she confirmed no, this is different, and
Yeah.
we want other people to experience that.
Yeah. I really hope that all of our listeners will, well, one, just free yourself and go play. Like, just play with your kids, get dirty, get messy. Like, that is truly, honestly, it's such a freeing thing to just be able to let go and just enjoy life. And you can live a beautiful life and not be the fun police. I learned this. Like, it's,
Messes can be cleaned up,
yes.
but these memories, we can't freeze time as bad as we would want to. We can't go back. We can't redo it. Like this is it. This is our shot. And
And I think that that is just so, as a parent, especially if you're healing from trauma, because I think as parents, we don't want our kids to have the same trauma that we did. And we don't want, like, we almost overanalyze parenting sometimes. At least I do,
yes,
because I am so determined to make sure that it is different,
yeah,
but I can't make it so rigid that I'm inadvertently repeating without intentionally
yeah,
repeating. So really
yes,
making that like just getting down and playing. And
yeah.
that's what matters. But I also hope that our listeners too will go check out ampersandinitiative.com, see what all you guys are doing, follow along on, we'll link everything in the show notes too. Follow along on the socials and maybe go sign up and go to a retreat because you didn't even know this existed, but this is exactly what you need in your life. So
We can't wait to welcome you.
I know I'm so excited for you guys and everything you're doing. And I just really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us today.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Anna.
having us.